I don't know how many people saw this week, but let me see how large we can get the video. This was downtown Chicago. Two men were beaten and robbed in the middle of State Street as people walked by, drove past, and twerked up a storm. Let's take a quick look at that video. I don't know if I can make it larger here, but is there any volume? There's no volume to it. How about that? It's hard to decide which part of the video is the most revolting. This was near River North.
I don't think I watched the entire thing earlier, but I watched a good portion of it, and it's kind of difficult to see what's going on in the beginning until you can kind of see where there's some altercations going on.
Well, I'm going to read from the article because I'm just going to let this thing run as I read from the article because the article's a little lengthy, and this comes from CWB Chicago. It's hard to decide which part of the video is most revolting. Is it the sucker punch that sends a man slamming to the pavement? Maybe it's the vultures who rob two men, even taking their shoes as they lie injured in the middle of State Street. Perhaps it's the group of women who start twerking in the traffic lanes while the men are being victimized steps away. It happened at 1:31 a.m. Saturday on the 400 block of North State Street, and it's on video, as we are now viewing. A police spokesperson said the man in the green shirt, the one who was seen throughout the video, suffered abrasions to his face and refused medical attention. The man who was sucker punched is 40 years old and was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. His condition is not known. Both men were robbed, the spokesperson said, and no arrests have been made. Who knows? Maybe the most revolting part of the video is the fact that something like this could happen in one of the city's busiest nightlife districts for over 5 minutes before a police officer was able to make their way to the scene. CPD radio traffic shows officers who were monitoring the local police district surveillance cameras told dispatchers about the battery in progress on State Street around 1:33 a.m. Officers requested an ambulance upon arrival 6 minutes later. But slow responses are the new normal under strategies deployed by CPD Superintendent David Brown, whose master plan has stripped local police districts of officers. The 18th district, which includes River North, currently has just 351 cops assigned to work at streets, according to the Chicago's Office of the Inspector General. That's the fewest number of officers since November of 2017, and it's 15% lower than the 416 cops who worked there when Brown took command of the department in April of 2020. The downtown nightlife areas have been riddled with problems over the past year. Reports of gunfire, supported by the discovery of shell casings, are frequent on weekends. Shootings, once rare, are not so uncommon anymore. We need help, a River North bar owner told CWB Chicago in a message last weekend. We'll have more on the downtown troubles in a follow-up report. So how about that? Look at how long this is State Street, 400 block of North State Street. That's a busy area downtown. And I guess what's surprising to me, given how adamant the police are about getting more funding so that they can police the streets better, I don't see them, despite the money that has already been given to them. However, I will say, let me bring this video down. Of course, I have to go to my other screen here. Where am I at here?
Well, clearly whoever's operating the surveillance camera in that area is following the action. He saw that guy run off with the bag, and he's following him as he's basically looting that guy's bag. Yeah. But I mean, if the surveillance guy has that much time and that much attention to be able to follow it, all the stuff that's going on now, why are there no arrests? Why isn't there a quicker response? And for a department that keeps crying poor or crying that it doesn't have enough resources, why isn't it using the ones it has?
There are blue light cameras downtown too, I believe, everywhere. Blue light cameras all over the city. We're a surveillance city. Not to harp on this again, but we got the cameras at the intersections and near parks or near places that they claim are parks to issue tickets to people. But remarkably, the blue light cameras don't work as well as the red light cameras. However, I do want to share this. When we wonder where the police were, gosh. In our next story, white police officer restraining black woman walking dog caught on video. And this was in Chicago. Let's take a look at this video. apparently this is where the police are feel it's more important to direct their resources.
That's fine. That's fine.
Now understand
Please
this.
please respect my space. It's COVID. 6 feet. You do not have.
This woman was walking her dog when she was racially profiled by this Chicago police officer.
Have a mask on.
And then on top of that, the guy doesn't have a mask on while he's outside, while he's approaching someone who clearly is aware that distancing is one of those things that you can do to keep yourself from catching COVID.
And remember, this is the police department that doesn't want to vaccinate or wear masks. Here they are. What is she doing for him to stalk her with utter intimidation in this video?
It's inexcusable, really. I mean, if she's walking her dog and if he wants to, give her the single notice that, okay, this is an area where you shouldn't be walking your dog, and she'll be like, okay, I'll move it, which essentially sounds like what happened, then he should have just been okay, and then let it go. There's no excuse for what's happening right here.
This is what we talk about in regards to escalation. They don't de-escalate.
What did
they
he
go
grab
into
her for?
situations looking to cause problems because they can. Now, you want to talk about pissing all over the legacy of a good cop like Ella French? I present to you this video. Now,
yeah, and they're protecting this guy's identity, which
right.
is, I mean,
I was looking in the Newsweek article because Newsweek reported on this. I'm trying to find this officer's name, and
which is ridiculous, because if this guy's out in public, and I would imagine that anyone who's familiar with the police officers would be clearly identifiable. How has nobody in the media even mentioned who he is? Because this guy should not have a job anymore.
No, he shouldn't. But remember, Ed,
not as a cop anyway.
Blue light cameras at State Street nary an officer to be seen after all of our COVID funds last year went towards increasing their budget,
and so
these are their priorities.
And I don't know, why did he even grab at her? Was she going to make a phone call to report him, and then he didn't want her to do that, which means his assault here is an attempt to cover up his actions? That's not acceptable either.
It would not surprise me. So, welcome to Chicago. This ended up making national news with Newsweek. An investigation has been launched after several videos surfaced online showing a white officer restraining a black woman while she was out walking her dog in Chicago. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability, which investigates allegations of misconduct by police, is looking into the incident that took place on North Avenue Beach. That's not too far from downtown. North Avenue Beach and Lincoln Park around 12 a.m. on Saturday. Now, clearly, I'm not saying this cop could have been over at State Street, but again, what are CPD's priorities? Sorry, as I lean over all the time, it's because I've got my other monitor screen over here. Mm-hmm. That's the screen I'm sharing, so it's like I can never see like the reduce the window thing with my mouse unless I'm looking in the lower corner because I've got something in the way here. But yeah, really Block Club Chicago
over here too.
Block Club Chicago updated this story today, and this comes to us by way of Kelly Bauer and Justin Lawrence. The Chicago cop put on desk duty after grabbing black woman walking her dog in Lincoln Park. Nikita Brown was they identified her. Nikita Brown was traumatized by the obvious case of racial profiling, her attorney said. Mayor Lightfoot has pushed for a quick investigation. The Chicago police officer who grabbed the black woman as she walked her dog in Lincoln Park has been put on desk duty. That's not enough. The officer, whose identity has not yet been publicly confirmed, was put on administrative leave Monday morning, a police spokesperson said in an emailed statement. Superintendent David Brown said earlier in the day that move is akin to having an officer sit at a desk. Now, it's interesting that Superintendent David Brown and the police department would not be transparent about this officer's identity. It kind of reminds me of Superintendent Brown not disclosing the fact he was suspended in Texas, as we reported on last show, when Mayor Lightfoot wanted to appoint him is in all the vetting that happened with Chicago City Council.
Yeah.
Again, the culture of rules for me, thee, not for thee. Rules for thee, not for me. The incident is also being investigated by the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. The agency had urged the police department to relieve the officer of police powers, which Brown said he reserves for serious cases where it appears the officer could be fired or put him on administrative duties while its officials investigate. Videos from the confrontation, which show an officer walking closely after Nikita Brown grabbing her and holding her as she tried to leave the park near North Avenue Beach, has spread quickly on social media. I was quite disturbed by what I saw, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said. I would be surprised that she didn't say that she wasn't surprised, because we see it all the time. At an unrelated news conference, it looked like the woman was following the direction of the officer and leaving the beach. This is a pretty straightforward matter. It's concerning that what we saw in the video.
Yeah,
Nikita Brown's.
Even if they have like a short period of internal investigation where this guy's riding a desk for a couple days, it shouldn't take them this long to figure out that this guy should no longer be on the force.
And, I would also venture an opinion here. Ed, this can't be the first incident with this hothead escalating things. It's probably maybe the only incident that someone's caught on camera.
Yeah, it'd be it'd be interesting to find out how many complaints this officer has had.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the guy who rags on police departments. I just want everybody to be accountable for their actions if they're going to be in a position like this. So
you know what, Ed, despite a lot of people's opinions, I don't like to harp on the police department either. I'm critical of them because they're not doing their jobs. This job is a privilege. They don't serve and protect. They're more worried about their authority being followed as they break their own rules. And I got into it with a friend of mine. We respectfully disagree about a lot of this, who thinks that anytime I'm critical of the police, I'm dismissing the fact that there are good cops. And I said to her, the only thing we disagree on is not that there aren't good cops, but what I disagree with her on is that the good cops are not policing their own bad cops, which is why nothing ever changes.
Yeah, it's an institutional problem that I don't know how we're going to solve, but clearly this guy is not helping the solution.
No. The Fraternal Order of Police is led by another jackhole, John Catanzara, who in our last week's show was talking about how the mandate for police officers to get vaccinated is like putting people into gas chambers because they don't have any choices. It's like fascist Nazi Germany. When you've got leaders like that at the Fraternal Order of Police and this institutional culture that you just referred to, this is why nothing changes. I mean, that guy's a thug himself. And the fact that there's just this acceptance of this kind of abusive behavior by our police department, and the fact that the good cops that I know are out there aren't exerting any, aren't exerting any influence that I would like to think that they have, it's just never going to change. So it's sad. I don't like coming on here bitching about the police. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, and I don't either. And for me, I don't even know how qualified I am to really be able to do a deep dive analysis of the problems with the way police departments operate. I'm just a regular guy who has a perspective of this is what I've been seeing, and this is not very good. There's got to be better ways to do it. And it'd be nice to have somebody on who maybe somebody watching would be interested in coming on with Jerry at a future time to talk about what the alternatives are for community policing or or community support for all the problems that the city has. I mean, clearly we had the one problem where they're basically using police for to respond to every situation instead of the ones that they should be focusing on. They shouldn't be responding to a mental health issue typically. Although I did hear that recently they're starting a pilot program where they will have a set of people, including a support officer, at least this time, to address those types of issues. And maybe that program will at least in some way signal a better way of doing things.
I think it's a great program. When I heard they announced it, I'm glad that that's what they're allocating funds towards. And yeah, we are just two regular guys who want to respect authority. But when we see this next to us without any law enforcement intervening to protect that guy who got his skull smashed, but we're seeing this, what does it leave you to think about priorities? That's the problem. It's a big part of the problem. And again, talking about the example of Ella French, who was lionized, as she should be, because apparently she was one of those few good cops. And the police department really wrote it out, pointing to the fact that she was one of those good cops, right? And that's great. That's what all cops should aspire to. And then we see this bullshit. How do you honor her legacy and be good cops when this is the kind of shit we see going on with the racial profiling and literally assaulting this woman in the park because she's walking her dog while black? It just burns my blood.
And it makes you wonder if the chief of police is even talking to the rank and files to let him know that this stuff isn't okay.
It's yeah. I mean, that's got to be like at the top of the many things that they discuss when they put them out on. I mean, look, they've got a PR problem. They know they have a PR problem. If I was a cop, actually, I know a cop in CPD who's got a lot of integrity and who off the record has told me they are good cops who are just sick of this, but they feel powerless because there is it doesn't seem like unless somebody gets killed and it's on camera, as we saw in the Van Dyke shooting of Laquan McDonald, that there are any repercussions. It literally takes someone to get killed until and it's got to be on camera where it can be proven. That's what gets people's attention. It should never get to that. That's the problem.
And even in that serious circumstance, it's not like there's really a proper response to it. So I don't know. I don't know how else to keep responding to these situations.
I know, and we're just. I don't mean to belabor it. I mean that we're kind of past this story.